I asked him what his problem was with the drainage, and he said he was concerned that the plan, there was no drainage design on the site plan. And he just doesn't want another issue like Dollar General coming through after the fact to bite us, especially when we add in parking spaces that'll move the water in.
Well, it's all impervious right now, so, and there's no plan here for paving.
But still, you're adding more trucks, and I think we should get this right first time around.
If I can just intervene, the current building that's already there has all drainage, and there's already a culvert that's probably draining through, preventing any issue from the street. That was all done prior with the first building. This building's set back much farther, and everything's already swaled and preventing any issue with the highway or state, because there's clear cut drainage going underneath the roadway already.
That's not showing on the plan.
That's because it's on the existing building lot from lot 2, which is the front. That lot 2, which is the main building, is the one that would really be any effect to the roadway.
But aren't you putting vehicles, potentially parking them behind the new building?
There'll be no more vehicles that are already currently there at the main lot. Most of the parking, everything's all the front building. This is storage in the back there for my equipment. So it's essentially the same setup. I mean, there's still plenty of vehicles and everything that's already been designed from the front lot that park there on a normal basis.
I still would like to see them on the plan, just to avoid another Dollar General.
Would the current plan that's on file from the front lot be sufficient? Because that one is everything that's abutting the street.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but I think not, because you're adding a building and we need to know what it would be like with the building on there.
With regards to stormwater, any new impervious surface, which would be the foundation of the building, those calculations would be for any new surface. So it isn't quite sufficient based on the current building that's there for the footprint of that building to account for the new impervious surface of the 4,998 square feet that's going to be built with the metal building.
So you guys are saying they'd rather have the current building's plans added onto here to show where the drainage is?
Yeah, Ken, do you think that'll be enough?
My biggest concern here is we went through with conservation. There was all the discussion of it not being in a buffer zone or 0 point. I don't know if the terminology is correct. That no point source discharge area is what was determined from all the, when I applied with the conservation, and they did all this calculations, and I thought conservation was the area that covered this portion of it, and they approved it through all the paperwork that we provided to them. I was under the impression that that was the bigger, and I understand there's a whole other side of it, but feel like that was all discussed in the other portion of the permit process.
But it's not on the plans that we have.
Correct, and I think I think the main reason was because it's an estate lot. And we're thinking it wasn't affecting it the same way because of the no point source discharge and all that other lingo that they were referring to, and it being in the estate lot, not the lot that's up on the street.
Then that should be noted on the plans. where everything's going to be draining to.
I guess. I mean, this is the first I heard of it, I guess.
Okay, here we go. I'm looking at the elevation of the building, Steve, and the board here. The building is sloped to the rear of the lot. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's correct.
Trying to read elevations here. It's a small plan.
Well, Mr. Marion, the Conservation Commission issued an approval. Was it a negative determination? Or was it a order of conditions?
Oh, boy, they gave me an approval. I'm trying to figure out what the exact terminology was. They reviewed all the prints, discussed it, and I don't know the exact terminology that they gave for it. What were the two ones you're asking me again?
So it was a negative determination for a, I always forget the acronym, but it's either that or it was an order of conditions which allowed you to move forward with your construction on the Conservation Commission's over the Conservation Commission's purview. Then there's the negative determination of what is it? Negative determination. It's called an RDA, which is a request for determination of applicability.
Yep.
And then the Conservation Commission would do its analysis and then basically make a negative determination based on what you presented to them. I think if there was a review of stormwater and you know, and those documents are available, then I think that could be helpful to the board, so that, you know, if there were a different set of plans which were drawn or submitted to them with regards to stormwater, that could be helpful to the board to at least address the comment made by the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, so from my understanding, well, I know that the term RDA was what was filed. And I apologize because I don't have the exact, you know, concept. I was just kind of going through the motions like I am with you guys. But the conservation point of it was, you know, after the people that I hired to go out there and take care of it, all the measurements and data that they needed. And I know there was there was a lot of discussion about the current runoff that's set up and that it's pretty elaborate to begin with the current building and how there's culverts and everything as compared to, you're talking about that other situation. That was a new building there was nothing existing in there. So they were just putting it alongside the roadway. Here, there's already a current building with elaborate stormwater runoff system determined from years ago. So I think that was part of their determination. I don't have specifics on that. I just know that I think it's a little different because and I understand where you guys are coming from, but it's a little different because it's the estate lot where I guess you're looking at everything on the street's already been done up by the streetway. And I guess it's all new to everybody, right? Because this is the commercial estate lot that has just recently been approved. And I believe the first one going up in town. But yes, it was an RDA through conservation. I mean, I can get more information for you, obviously, but
Yeah, I think based on an email from Kathy Leonard, she said that maybe the board was awaiting a note from the Conservation Commission, which would have been maybe to submit or address the negative determination for the RDA, which could be helpful to the board with regard to this question about stormwater. So, I mean, I think that.
Well, Ken, I think if the Board of Health had any issue with it, they would have noted it in their letter to the Select Board / Planning Board dated December 10th. I mean, they clearly said Board of Health has no issue with this plan. So if there was any issues with conservation, we would have heard from them as well.
Jim, the email from Kathy said, I spoke with Bill Shaheen of the Conservation Commission, and he said they did not look at the drainage as they felt the highway department would be addressing it. I think it was I think it was miscommunication between the highway and these guys as to who was really supposed to do it. But needless to say, the plans for water that were already put in there at the very beginning from the other building, the rules have since changed.
However, I do understand what you're saying, Lil. As I'm looking at the proposed new grading of this area around the building, the grades aren't changing that much, and all the new grading is coming, the contour-wise, are coming back to existing grades that are already on the property that are accepting, due to the contours of the property, the current sheet flow, water flow, best I can tell, is all being diverted to that culvert right off of Route 202. And then it progresses to the east, as it's always been with the existing building.
But it still doesn't show it on these plans.
It doesn't show what?
Where all the drainage is going.
Well, it shows the contours, it shows the existing culvert and the flow of the culvert with the arrow. I don't know how much more it could show, but
So everything's draining towards the street?
yes,
I would think that's going to be a big problem.
everything currently drains towards the street.
Right, but now you're adding more to it.
so currently it's a lot lower than street elevation, though, the way it's set up. I mean, if you walk the site, I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm just saying it would be different if the site was above the street and coming down a hill to it, but the way it's set up is not like that at all. And it's never been an issue with the current situation, and certainly is not going to have any different impact. Again, I know you're concerned about the Dollar General situation, but that is completely different than what's going on here in terms of adding a new building just on the side of the road, which that is a higher elevation as compared to this situation.
I still would like something in writing from somebody, some expert somehow, maybe Ed Chapdelaine can put it on there saying, you know, this is all gonna come in here. There isn't gonna be any, we don't anticipate a big 100-year, more than 100-year, because those are coming a lot sooner these days. Flood or something coming through where it's all gonna come out onto 202 or flood all the areas around there. Prove this the way it is, and something like that happens, it's on us.
Okay. Are there any butters? Anybody else who would like to speak? Okay. Steve, how difficult would it be for you to have somebody show the drainage on your point? To get somebody out there to show the drainage and
So I'd have to start, I don't really know where to start with that, so I would have to start making some calls and find out who I can do. Obviously, this is gonna be involved with paying someone to come out to do something that, you know, I would have to start making calls tomorrow. I don't really have a good answer on that. I think it's gonna hold me up just to get somebody to go out there looking at it now, especially with the snow out there, to be honest with you, but
Well, Ed Chapdelaine may be the one that can help you the most.
yeah, I mean, I know obviously I worked with him quite a bit, and he, you know, there was a lot of terminology, like I said, that no point source discharge was one of the things kept, and maybe I'm using this in the wrong terminology for it, but you know, it's obvious that there's no issue from looking at it. I think that's why it was never addressed. It's kind of throwing me a curveball here, to be honest with you. So I don't really have a straight answer short of I'd have to start falling around. Obviously it's going to hold me up.
well, it appears that we have concern, a member has concern about runoff. And rather than to take an up and down vote, I'm going to recommend that we continue this hearing or continue this meeting and ask that you get a hold of a expert, we're not telling you who to use, to show on the plan how the water is going to either be, how the water is going to be managed, how it's going to flow, whether there's any type of detention area or elevations that are clear for all members to understand the sheet flowing that's going to take place here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make some calls tomorrow. I don't know how, I'm not really sure how quick that works, but I'll start making calls.
Okay, so now before we close this out, Steve, I want you to hang on here. There was also some issues brought up today in concern with parking. Now, you said it more than once. The only parking is going to be inside the building. But there's those concerns that down use it for something other than the original purpose, that you show that there's area here to park. So by reading this plan for myself, I can see where you've got the grayed out area, building, 3 sides.
Yep.
The westerly side is a 20-foot driveway. or the southerly side, I guess you would call that. The westerly side is a 140 by 35 foot pad area cleared for gravel. And in front of them, you've got 102 plus feet by 45 feet. That should satisfy parking for a building that was fully occupied as office use, from what I can see here. So if anybody's got any issues with space for parking of additional vehicles, let's bring it up now for Steve so that we're not sending him away on a second. Ken, Will, any comments?
Jim, you're talking about the map that shows the, I'm looking at, there's no name on the map. But it shows gray areas around the building.
Correct.
Okay, so the gray areas on either side could be used for parking?
They could be. He's not showing it because he doesn't need it. He's only using
Right.
it for storage for his equipment and vehicles. But if there's an issue where someone see additional parking, designated parking, I think it's premature to ask for that right now, because if he showed it today and decided to use it for a different purpose tomorrow, that parking plan may not be sufficient. So if he doesn't need parking now, although he has room to park, I myself don't want to see a parking plan.
Okay, but this gray area, say like on the backside of it, looking from the highway, is
Yes.
going to be graded, one would assume?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard back there
Okay,
or gravel or whatever.
okay. So if, Jim, if later on down the road, Mr. Marion decides to rent out the areas, he doesn't need it for all of his stuff, then he'll have to come back to the planning
For
board?
use, he's got to apply for it. So who knows what that will be? If he's renting it out for storage, then maybe he needs a couple spots for parking. If he rents it out for retail or something along those lines, he'll need more parking.
Right, but that would come back later.
He has to come back for a use change.
Okay,
Right now, it's just for private use.
I'm fine with the parking now, the way it is.
But just to clarify, just general question, if I, in front of the garage doors, if I have one of my own personal vehicles parked out there during the day, I mean, that doesn't create an issue, right? Because it's obvious area for parking. I know you guys asked me about parking last time, and I was just indicating that whole area there is, if I pulled up a car next to it, the building and parked, it would be assumed where there's a parking spot. So I'm just trying to clarify, like, if I have a vehicle, one of my trucks parked out there during the day in the lot, that's warranted, correct?
That's fine. The difference, parking for public use or parking for private use.
I got it. Okay.
Follow me?
Yeah. So like the front building's all been approved for public use. So I can
Correct.
park there. Okay. And just to get back to the, because I'm getting a real curveball here with the water here. You're saying that if I have to call around and find someone, or obviously speak with some of the people that I've just recently hired to do all the paperwork and see if I can get them to write up something to say that there's a current water runoff done correctly there, or you need something more in detail beyond that?
There's
I
a
would,
member that would
where
like
it's
to see it,
going.
show it on the plan.
So the storm drain and the runoff that Mr. Sheen was referring to, that is on, that we're reading here, that's not suffice. I mean, I can understand where Dave DeRozers would raise the question. But I mean, if obviously looking at these markings, we can see what's going on here, and we know where the culvert is in the street.
I think what we want to make sure of, Steve, or what the board has concerns about, are the zoning bylaws regarding stormwater management. And I believe that that's what Dave DeRocher also has concerns for. And I think that that has become a stumbling block this evening.
Yeah, I understand. I feel like I went through a lot of this with the people that, you know, the correct people, and I thought that we were following the right protocol for this. So I feel like getting this hung up over one question is I don't know. I feel like we've addressed this with all the other departments for this.
I think if you submitted the Conservation Commission materials, that could be helpful to the board and to the town. Maybe that would be helpful for Mr. DeRozier. I'm not sure if he, you know, reviewed that. But if the determination, and conservation commissions can also address stormwater, maybe that review could be helpful to DPW to make that determination. I think other ways that I've seen these questions about stormwater, especially with a building, you know, knowing that there is probably a stormwater, there's stormwater management already on site for the first building, for the front building. It may be a letter from a civil engineer that suggests that you know, the addition of this 5,000 square foot building, which is your impervious surface, which is what would cause, you know, additional water. That if in the opinion of the civil engineer that it didn't add to, and I'm not a, you know, a stormwater expert, but maybe the concerns that the DPW director had with regards to adding additional water to the additional water that would be flowing to, you know, either 202 or to your stormwater management on site, that it wouldn't, or you know, as the abutters, if where that water would go, I think the civil engineer would be able to make that determination, as well as if the flows would be managed based on the systems that are already on site. And I think that is what a civil engineer would be doing for that review, to determine, you know, the stormwater management on site.
Steve, AD may be able to provide you with something.
Who's that?
Associated Builders might be able to provide you with something pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably can. I was just thinking of that. I just wish I could have gotten that prepared for you guys before this meeting. But all right, that's all we can do at this point.
If I can say a couple of more things, please, to all my respected board members, if you were to merely drive by the site, starting down at the intersection of Kellogg and Route 202, heading up towards the site, you'll see a ditch along the whole side of Route 202 there that feeds into a swamp. That's where all the stormwater is going to, is that swamp. and I'm only bringing this up because sometimes we don't know or we don't visualize what's happening. Also, Mr. Marion, I think it would behoove you that when we continue this meeting, that you have your professionals online with us who would be possibly more able to answer questions from either other concerned parties, the board, our Pioneer Valley Planning Commission liaison, just so that they could probably be answered in a more efficient manner.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, duly noted. Yeah, I would have definitely had him there if I thought this was coming up. I got
Yeah.
blindsided with this one.
The board did too. We didn't hear anything about thing from DPW until today.
We didn't hear anything from anybody until today. You know, that's really unfair to the applicant also, but we won't go there.
Is there any way to, and this obviously I think I probably know the answer to this, but to have some vote subject to some letter approving or in discussion from an engineer, like beyond that particular issue?
I
Clarify that, Steve.
personally, go ahead.
I didn't quite understand what he said, Bob.
So my biggest issue is I'm trying to, and I understand, there's no doubt in my mind this is going to get approved eventually. I'm trying to get a foundation in before the ground freezes. There's been much discussion to try to get this done. And what I was trying to get at, is there any way that there can still be a vote based on just subject to a approval letter from some letter from an engineer signing off on something like this? Because I know it's one thing for me just to say that it's going to be fine, but we know, or people that actually know the property and looked at it, there's going to be no issue with this. And the more that we wait, the longer it's going to take me. It's going to be until the middle of February, and then that's going to be setting me back to the springtime. I was trying, after this meeting, we were hoping to try to get something done ASAP for the foundation. And I think I can get something put together by someone quick, but I don't want it to. We were hoping to call the inspector by Thursday and try to set something up to do a foundation put in.
Does anybody take it?
Let me ask the board this: Would the board consider voting on approval of this site plan with outstanding circumstances to be presented to the board?
No,
You would not be in favor of doing that. Is that correct, Lo?
that is correct.
Okay. Understood. So I guess we have to have all our ducks in a row before we can go to a vote.
Yeah, it's a four-person board tonight. We need a majority. And I would be in favor of approving this with conditions that an approved stormwater design is presented. I would be okay with that.
And that's essentially what I was looking for. I'm just trying to get I obviously will present the stuff, and I can't go farther with a build if it doesn't happen. I'm just trying to get a way to, even if it's at my own risk, to put a foundation in, and then get halted. But I'm just trying to get something for the condition, and then under conditions to get it squared away prior to the final construction of it.
Quite frankly, even if we were to do that, Steve, I'm not so sure I can't speak for the building department, but I don't know as if they would issue a permit without full approval.
This is true too. I'm just kind of speaking out loud. I have no idea without talking to the building inspector either.
I know it's the holidays. I know you've got a pretty decent contractor. They could probably flip something pretty quick. If the board is willing to continue this meeting until next Monday or Tuesday, do you think you could have something before us by then?
I can make some calls right away, obviously. It's hard for me to give you a definitive answer. I mean, I could reach out to or email the board tomorrow and let you know that for sure, but I really don't know without starting.
So,
Obviously, when this meeting ends, I'm making some calls right now.
so
Well, as
this is what
as procedure.
hang on, Bob, for a minute, please.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a recommendation that we continue this meeting until Monday or Tuesday of next week. If you have the information, great. If you don't, notify us. We will, because this is all virtual, it's not really a big deal for us to open the meeting and then continue it again. If nobody takes objection with that. That only puts you a week out from the decision, but you're not going to get much done in a week anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Bob, go ahead. You were starting to say something as well.
Well, what I was going to do was explain to Steve that for us to continue the public hearing, we have to have a set date and time to continue it to. That's all I was going to say, which you basically said. So.
Is anybody from the board an objection of doing that?
I'm fine.
So,
Yeah, Rob's fine with that.
okay, good. So why don't we, Bob, why don't you make a motion to continue this with Monday or let's go with Tuesday. That way there, if there's anything that Monday's a business day, if you're still running around trying to get things done, Steve. Why don't we continue this meeting until Tuesday?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
29th
Okay.
at 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to continue Mr. Marion's public hearing to Tuesday, December 29th at 5 p.m.
Do we have a second?
Rob will second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I have a little, just so we're all clear, the meeting's being continued. We're good with everything on the plan with the exception of showing us how you're going to drain, how the stormwater is going to be managed on site to the road.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Bob Sheehan,
Aye.
Billy Camus,
Aye.
Rob Chauvin,
Aye.
Jim Tromke is an aye as well. Meeting is continued. And this meeting is now closed. We'll continue. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Jason and I will sign these plans for the A&R. I don't think we had anything else on the agenda, did we?
No, are we still so we're gonna meet next Tuesday just for the public hearing, and then our regularly scheduled meeting is January 11th. Plus we have, tomorrow, we have a joint planning and, economic development committee meeting at 6:30.
Correct. That's at what time now? It's 6:30 though, right? Or
6:30, yes. Tomorrow. The board has, the planning board has to vote to accept or approve the findings that Ken had sent to everybody. I can see heads shaking.
yes.
Yep. I started reading it. I have not finished, but I have started.
Which fine? Oh, the report.
Yes, the
Okay.
report.
I've submitted so many reports to different communities. Yes.
Well, if we don't, we're having a joint meeting tomorrow. And
Right.
if all the, that just got kicked out over the weekend, if I'm not correct, or not mistaken, right?
Pretty much so, yeah.
So if everybody's not, I'm sure you're going to give your presentation tomorrow. And then if the board's not, up to speed on everything, we can take it up at our next meeting.
For sure. I think it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
I did want to bring something else up, if this is the time for that.
Well, it all depends. Is it planning board related?
It is planning board related, yes.
Bring it up then.
So I received an email from Daniel Cost, who is a planner with the Westover Air Force Air Reserve Base. And there's going to be a study coming out. It's called the ACUS, which again, it's an acronym that I always have to search what that means. It's Air Installation Compatible Use Zone. And I think we discussed this maybe a couple months ago when we were looking at the zoning amendments that you're currently, exploring. But the report and study are forthcoming, and I'll be sure to. The town administrator will get that. The administrator will get that as he is the liaison, or that he's the contact person. But I did suggest you, Jim, to also receive at least notification that the study was available. I'll be getting it because that's my purview at PVPC, and we put together the original joint land use study plan back in 2017 or 2018. But I just wanted to tell you that that's forthcoming, and it may provide some insights as to the different type of land uses that the board is exploring for that location, those properties over there.
Yeah, it sounds like the timing's good. We're, I've been told we'll be kept informed of when the town will have a town meeting, a full town meeting, so that we back up from there on our schedules to move forward with the potential rezoning.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good news.
Ken, a quick question on the meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah.
With that report, I believe that report has to be by the end of this year.
Yeah, so that is a report that's by the end of the year. Again, they're recommendations, and it includes a multitude of different parties. So the planning board would presumably take if they choose to look at those particular regulations in the mixed use development district. Obviously the zoning board or the zoning would be looked at. The other recommendations are for other town entities, and most of those are grants for some of the other supports. But it is a report that's for information for the town. There's no adoption or anything. It's more so, these are the identification of some of the issues with regards to mixed use development in Granby, and some recommendations based on best practices and based on grant programs that exist to help support some of that development.
So the only thing we really need to vote on is accepting the report.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you don't really need to vote, but if it's been the practice of the board to do stuff like to vote on reports, Yeah, because it's not a master plan, which would be the adoption of, or the approval, or, you know, accepting of the plan. This is a report for the town to use, and more so the town administrator for guidance to other departments, and select board for guidance to departments to address, you know, some of the issues that were identified with regards to mixed use.
Okay, so Jim, is it your understanding then that we don't need to vote on it?
I think we should, if we're in agreement with it.
Okay,
I vote on it and approve it and stand behind. I mean, at least in its, you know, entirety, we should. I mean, there's suggestions on what the town should do to go forward with. I don't think we should, you know, move it forward unless we agree with it. But, and from what I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but it looked pretty good so far. I think some of the findings were just were things that we've been talking about for years about infrastructure that.
And in general, that's the case. It is, you know, it's trying to find the resources and the opportunities that are out there. Obviously, the town, you know, may need to address the capacity to do those things, but you know, it's at least in a documented report that you could take to your granting authorities to help support that type of development, and to look for other funding streams to help support that. That's really the goal.
Well, yep, absolutely. Well, that sounds good. We can get into that more tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else? Okay. Well, Jason and I have signed off on the plans. And so if everybody can get down to town hall to do their part, that's great. So with that said, I don't think we'll be talking. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We got a second by Jason. All those in favor? Bob?
Aye.
Bill?
aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Jim's and I. Motion carries. Adjourn.